think the biggest similarity between them is that they care about their guys. Coach Pinkel early on, he was a little colder than he was towards the end, but he was changing a culture. He was changing a program, right? And so he had to, if you read the book Good to Great, right, you got to get the wrong people off the bus as quickly as possible. And so in the early years, he was fighting a lot of tides, not just, losing seasons and trying to get people in the stands, but he's trying to get the right people on his team and all these different things. And so as he progressed through his career there, through my career there, he was able to let his guard down a lot more with his guys, and guys were able to understand and feel the love and care that he had for us, which made us want to battle for him even more. And I think that's something that's very evident with Coach Drink. I think he takes a lot of pride in his guys, a lot of pride in the guys that he brings in.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
Hello and welcome into this week's edition of Mizzou That's Who, here, your podcast for Missouri Athletics here on KC Sports Network. I'm your host, Tucker Franklin, joined as always by Maggie Johnson. But look, this week we got ourselves a special guest. To kick off the season, I knew I had to call in the big guns. I said, I know one guy that I need to have on the podcast if we're going to kick off this special 2024 season for the Missouri Football Tigers. It's Martin Rucker. Ruck, how are you doing? Glad to have you back on KCSN.
Tuck, man, I appreciate the call. And I'll tell you what, if you're calling in the big guns and it's me, you need to get a new circle of friends, brother. You got to upgrade a little bit. Just a small fish, maybe.
Maggie, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm excited to have. I'm gonna preface this statement with this. Whenever Tucker was like, "I'm gonna call Martin Rucker," I was like, "Oh shoot, am I supposed to call him like Martin, or can I call T-Ruck?" All I've ever called you, obviously, like behind your back, because I don't know you, like personally, is T-Rucker or like whatever. So I was like, "What am I supposed to call him?" So I could have asked you before the show, but I'm asking you now. So I was like, do people still call you just like T-Rucker, or do they call you Martin?
It's so funny. Like everybody that meets me in the professional world, that's like the biggest question right out the gate. Because like a lot of people know me from football, but they know me. And so they don't want to call me the wrong thing and call me T or Ruck or T-Ruck or T-Rucker or whatever. I'm like, just call me what you're comfortable with. If you call me Martin, I'll probably think that I'm in trouble and I'll probably start looking around for my mom. But anything outside of that, you're good to go.
Well, what's really great is, Ruck was an OG member at KC Sports Network. Some people don't know that. If you're new to the Mizzou channel, Ruck and Tommy Saunders did a podcast together. Making Mizzou is what you guys did, talking about all kinds of different people. Still great episodes. I still think very evergreen. You can go back in the same podcast feed you're listening to this right now. You can find those episodes. But Ruck, one of the funny stories is I kept calling you Martin right at the beginning, and you were like, you gotta stop doing that. Like, you gotta stop calling me Martin. And Tommy was like, are you a narc? Like, what is going on? Why do you keep calling him by his first name? And that was one of the more fun podcasts that we were doing is me, you, Tommy, and whoever you guys had on prior to it. Just we were shooting the breeze for probably 30 minutes, sometimes an hour before we would record. And then we just started recording the sections that we would just shoot the breeze with. But that was a really fun time. But yeah, go back and go listen to those Making Mizzou podcasts with Martin and Tommy. I think you guys had Drink on. You guys had Pinkel on. I know for a fact you guys had all kinds of people on. And we even did I think we did a watch party, right? One time at Taps on Main.
Sure did. Yeah, had some guests stop by, Jeff Wolford and Colin Brown, and yeah, it was a good time. Appreciate KC Sports Network for having us on and letting us do that, and it was a lot of fun. Man, we had a blast. And Chuck, you were the best. So glad to see you doing well now and having your own show and everything. I had no doubt back then, and I know you're going to be successful in whatever you guys do moving forward, bro.
You got it. Your check's in the mail. I appreciate that, Martin.
Well, that's for all the listeners. That's for all the haters out there.
That's right. Yeah.
Heard it here first.
For that Twitter account that called me the most clueless Mizzou fan out there, flip that for him. Let's flip that for him. But let's get into this team, because obviously season opener this week. There's a lot of buzz, a lot of excitement around this team going up against Murray State. Martin, you were a part of a team that had a lot of buzz going into a season. What is that like? What are these guys feeling going into this first game of the season? It's stiff opponent, right? It's an FCS team. So you're going up against a team that you guys know you should beat. How tough is that, knowing that you have all this hype coming into the season, and how do you kind of see that playing out this year?
So for us, that stuff was easy because we had those non-con games that we were supposed to win that we had lost, in seasons leading up to, or, you take that Troy State game in 2000, and I think it was 2004, where we lost. They were unranked. We were ranked like 12. And that kind of set the tone for the rest of the season, right? So we had that thought already brewing in the back of our mind. Like, it doesn't matter what this season looks like. This thing can go off the rails really quickly if we don't take care of the business that we're supposed to take care of. And so I think that for us, that was easy because we had that experience. This team here, I think they're pretty similar to us. And we'll probably get into that a little bit more, I'm guessing, in the show. But they've won some games they shouldn't have won. They've lost some games they shouldn't have lost, right? And you mix all that together, and it comes out. You take care of the games that you know you're supposed to, and you've got that extra grit on those games that slipped away from you, but you were better than those teams or you should have beat. And that's what contributes to that late season success. And so I think as long as these guys are drawing on the right past experiences and their leadership is in the right place, not letting these young cats take the headlines that the older guys have earned that they're getting right now into these types of games, they'll be just fine.
Would you say that this year is kind of more similar to, or like, I guess 2023 was more similar to your 2007 season? Because being a student at the time that you guys were there, I don't remember it everybody was like, Mizzou came out of nowhere. Yeah. And like, we knew the talent was there, but I mean, Chase was a relatively new quarterback. We had new pieces, they're playing, and you didn't kind of really know what you had. And I mean, obviously we had you and like Chase Kaufman, and like the talent was there, but I just think that the year before we had under delivered a little bit, and then it went from an okay year to a great year. So I feel like those seasons are kind of similar, and then this season would be kind of similar to that 2008 hype a little bit.
I think that's a fair statement to say. I do think that's fair, and both of those seasons, 2007 and last year, ended in the Cotton Bowl, right? They ended in a win. Yeah. They ended in semi-historic fashion, all those kinds of things. You had players that you knew were good, came out of nowhere and literally crushed it, right? And so, leading this year, coming into it, having the hype, everybody giving you your kudos before you've earned them this season, right? And hopefully Drink is showing them some film from 2008 and maybe had a couple of those guys zoom in and talk to the team. But, they could definitely draw on some experiences from that 2018. Clearly I wasn't there, but just kind of like you said, I think that's fair.
Wish you would have been there.
Yeah, me too.
I think, it changes things a little bit, I think.
Absolutely. It does. And, it's funny because, and we'll probably talk about this later too, but you think about NIL now and trying to keep all of this stuff together, right? I played golf with Chase Kaufman about a month or so ago, and we were just kind of talking about how you would have paid us both. How you would have paid us both and Jeremy Macklin.
Yeah.
How you would have paid us, Jeremy Macklin, Chase Daniel, Tony Temple, Denario Alexander, Sean Weathers. Like, that stuff is tough, man. And so you got to strike while the iron's hot. And that's another thing that I hope that these guys understand is as NIL comes into the picture, it turns into a little bit more of a pro-style game with free agency. I mean, that's really what it is.
Yeah.
But guys were playing back then because we loved each other and we loved the game. And that's why we stuck together. That's why you didn't see a bunch of guys from Coach Pinkel's teams transferring out, going to other places because they weren't playing, right? We had a stacked offense and defense. You had good guys that were waiting behind other good guys for their turn. And now that's just doesn't have to be the case. And so it'll be interesting to see not only how this season shakes out, but also how they keep this team together and at least the nucleus moving forward.
That kind of leads me right into the question I wanted to ask you with the transfer portal being as relevant as it is now in college football. You've seen it, heard some programs, and you've seen some programs completely neglect the transfer portal when it comes to like Clemson. They don't want anything to do with the transfer portal. they kind of haven't got up to it. But then you see teams like Florida State rely on the transfer portal, and now like you're looking at it, and they don't recruit high schools as hard, and they're just losing to Georgia Tech overseas. So it's one of those things where there's a good balance of it. I think the way the Mizzou's approached it has been a good way of like recruiting high school talent still very well, but then using it to fill holes. What are your thoughts as a whole on the transfer portal and just these, not a free one-time transfer, but being able to transfer like whenever you want?
Yeah, it's interesting, not being in it. I hesitate to say too much, but guys only have so many snaps.
Yeah.
And you have no idea when they're going to come. And when you have no idea when the last one is going to be. And so my last snap was in practice. You have no idea if you're 17, 18, 19, 20 years old and your last snap is coming on Thursday. So like a kid that is sitting behind somebody playing scout team where he could transfer somewhere else, get paid a little bit of money that he would never see or wouldn't see at least for a couple of years. Like, it's hard to say, no, you can't do that. Do they need to do something with the portal and how it's going? Probably, but I don't have that answer just yet. There's a lot of folks that say, it's ruining the game and this and that. And those are just people who went to college, went out at night, maybe worked a job and then got a job after college. Not those that had to go to practice and do all that other stuff too, right? It's a totally different ballgame. So I appreciate it. I understand what it's for, but I do think along with NIL, there will be some guardrails that are put around this in the future. It's just got to be a thoughtful approach.
Yeah, because I think, people, you look at guys like Caden Green, who, you see your eyes are just like wide when a school like OU comes at you, right? I know at the time, I was down to Nebraska and Missouri. I believe for you had family that played at Nebraska, and not just played there, like on very successful teams at Nebraska. Yeah. So, you see these like stars in your eyes, and it's like, what can get you to be there and not just be there? Once you're there, that's all great. But you are recruiting this person to stay at your school for at least 3 years, hopefully. I think what like Luther Burden has done for Missouri is similar to what you did. You're from here. You wanted to change. You wanted to change the culture of Missouri football, and you guys obviously did that. When I think Missouri football, 2007 is the year that I think of. Some people say 13, but I think they're just too young to remember. I think they're too young to remember a clear 2007, which was like also arguably one of the craziest years in college football ever. So if you didn't even get to experience it, I actually feel bad for you, because it was like West Virginia, Kansas, Mizzou, and then they're all beating each other, and then LSU comes back and takes it, which I wish an underdog team would have won it so badly. Yeah. But yeah, with the transfer portal, you're literally recruiting and trying to keep somebody there. And when you have people like Luther Burden doing that work with you, and when it's not just a coaching staff, Luther played a big role in getting Toriano Pride to come from Clemson.
Yep.
Armand Membo.
Yep.
Big role, great friends with Caden Green. Yeah, so those in-state guys, like keeping people in, it's such a bigger team effort to do that with the transfer portal these days.
Yep, it is. And it's important to have guys like Luther Burden, because if you can't get your own in-state guys to cheerlead the in-state university, it's really tough to get the guys from outside, at least the good ones, that want to come in and be a part of your vision, right? And so that's great. The other thing that I think is really cool and that they're doing a good job of is the kid that they locked up at quarterback, Zollers,
and
then him going out and recruiting his receivers, right? And then once you see all these kids coming together on offense, and you start pulling in DBs and D linemen and stuff like that want to be a part of it. And then you can tell the kid, hey, you're going to be protecting this kid so that this guy can catch the ball and we can be great. All those pieces are extremely important. And it's all about your program. It's all about the character of your coaches, and it's about people wanting to be there. And that is more than NIL money. because you can get it anywhere, right? That's what the key is sure, when kids show up on campus, and I've heard this multiple times, the top two questions, and it's usually the first one, is how much are you going to give me? But anybody can do that. Beyond that, it's why do I want to be here? And if that's not the question, what you have to show them is why they want to be there, why they want to stay there. And that comes from the guys that are already in the program, speaking highly of it, welcoming those guys, and actively helping recruit those guys. That's what that's all about. And that's what I really like about Drink and his staff and what they're doing. The other thing they've done a really good job of is working with our legislature and making sure that all of our laws and our rules are in place and they're on the cutting edge on the front and not at the back being retroactive after all these other schools have done it for 3 and 4 years. They have absolutely crushed this whole process, and that's part of the fruits, while also building an internal culture that makes people want to go and stay there.
It's been awesome. It's been great. I want to ask you a little bit more about Drink and obviously Coach Pinkel as well. But first, I got to tell you guys about our friends at Home Field Apparel. Look, I'm rocking the hoodie again because it might be 100 degrees out here in Kansas City, but I just love this hoodie. It's not 100 degrees inside my apartment here. And I tell you, I keep it nice and chilly so I can wear this hoodie all the time because it is wonderful, from homefieldapparel.com. Maggie, you're rocking some Home Field Apparel as well. A sweatshirt. Look, we are in the fall mindset.
Here. Yeah.
We are in the fall mindset. It is not there yet, but we are in the fall mindset because the Missouri Tigers are playing some football this week, and you can get suited for the Missouri Tigers football season with code Mizzou24 at checkout. Gets you 15% off your first order. Go check them out at homefieldapparel.com. Obviously, they got more than just Mizzou, but you're going to want the Mizzou stuff because it is pretty good. It's good stuff. You're going to want it. So we're going to take a break. We'll be right back after it.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest-ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
With big wireless providers, what you see is never what you get. Somewhere between the store and your first month's bill, the price you thought you were paying magically skyrockets. With Mint Mobile, you'll never have to worry about gotchas ever again. When Mint Mobile says $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan, they mean it. Say bye-bye to overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you with premium wireless plans starting at just $15 a month. Worried about losing your phone? You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all of your existing contacts. You can ditch the overpriced wireless with Mint Mobile's deal and get 3 months of premium wireless service for just $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/KCSNMTW. That's mintmobile.com/KCSNMTW. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month with mintmobile.com/KCSNMTW. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
Ruck, I got to ask you about Coach Drinkwitz and the comparisons that you see, maybe the similarities between Coach Pinkel as well, because I think that those are Coach Pinkel, obviously one of the best coaches in this program's history, and I think everyone is so quick to compare every coach that they've got since Pinkel to Coach Pinkel, and I just want to know from your perspective, playing under Coach Pinkel, obviously, and you didn't get to play under Coach Drinkwitz, but you've talked to him, you've had somewhat of a relationship with him. What do you kind of see similarly between those two guys?
I think the biggest similarity between them is that they care about their guys. Coach Pinkel early on, he was a little colder than he was towards the end, but he was changing a culture. He was changing a program, right? And so he had, you read the book Good to Great, right? You got to get the wrong people off the bus as quickly as possible. And so in the early years, he was fighting a lot of tides, not just, losing seasons and trying to get people in the stands, but he's trying to get the right people on his team and all these different things. And so as he progressed through his career there, through my career there, he was able to let his guard down a lot more with his guys, and guys were able to understand and feel the love and care that he had for us, which made us want to battle for him even more. And I think that's something that's very evident with Coach Drink. I think he takes a lot of pride in his guys, a lot of pride in the guys that he brings in. And he's been very vocal about the culture that they have around there, right? The hard hat, lunch pail, come to work, show up, do your job type deal. And I think everybody buys into that. But he also takes care of them. Every time you look on Instagram, they're doing some sort of team activity together. They're doing, meals at people's houses. They're doing fried chicken night at Faroe. I mean, whatever it is, right? He's got them doing it. And so it's bringing those guys together, and it's making them form those bonds that are hard to break, right? The bonds. And so I think that's probably one of the biggest keys to success, but also one of the biggest similarities that he has to Coach Pinkel, just personally. When you look at their coaching careers, I touched on it earlier, but if you remember back to, 03 to 07, we went to a bowl game in 03, first time since I think 99, 98, somewhere in there. The next year, we were supposed to be really, really good. And then we went down to Troy State. We lost that game, and that just kind of tanked the rest of the season because we would be in these games late. October, November, we'd be beating K-State by 14, and then the fourth quarter came, collapse, we'd lose the game by 3 points, right? Iowa State or Colorado or something stupid like that. We would lose games we shouldn't lose. But we'd also win, we beat Nebraska by 24 points, and then, you lose to Iowa State 3 weeks later, right? So we would lose games that we weren't supposed to lose, but we also won games that we weren't supposed to win. And I think that's one of the biggest indicators to me that he was on the right track, was that they were doing those things, but also both of them won the recruiting battle the entire time.
Yeah.
Whether they were winning the games, losing the games, or a little bit of both, they were both landing recruits they had no business landing, right, on both sides of the ball. And I think Drink, with NIL's help, has even taken that ball and pushed it even further down the field and is really winning the recruiting battle now. And that's the biggest indicator of your future success, is how are you stocking the cupboard for whenever you need the next glass or the next plate. And so I think they both have very similar careers, and I think Drink's going to be pretty successful. I just hope we can keep him long enough to get us to the pinnacle.
You and me both. So as someone that went to Mizzou when you were there, which we kind of discussed a little bit already, I know that fans love seeing you guys back at things, like whether it be just an Instagram post or it's at the game. A ton of you guys were there when J-Mac's name was on the brick wall. That was an amazing moment. But I feel like for a while that wasn't happening. And maybe the late 2010, mid 2010s, it was pretty common and it wasn't like hidden. You know what I mean? Like you could tell.
Yep.
Do you feel like Drink's, whatever he has going on in the clubhouse is pulling those ex-players back in? Because I feel like that's important. Because you see some of the bigger programs, you see programs like Oklahoma and Alabama, and their old players are, they're so invested in the school that they played for. And now you see it happening more with Mizzou. And I don't know if that's thanks to Drink or guys have just been doing what they've been doing and, in their careers and then coming back. Like, what do you think? What do you think is the full reason we've been seeing your guys' faces even more?
I think it's a little combination of both. You've got guys who, when we left, a bunch of us went to the league. And so we were playing at the same time. And so we would get back when we could, but we couldn't get back a ton. But there was still a good group of guys that were still around Columbia and things like that. And so they would go back and pitch in. And now you've got guys that are, we're almost 40 now. Some of them are 40. And so we've got little kids and we want them to see, where we grew up and, some of the success that we had and show that dad is cool. And I don't just tell you that so you think that I am. Like, I actually was cool. And, but they've been pretty intentional, about inviting us back, especially to things like the spring game and hosting events. They bring all the former players back to a practice in the fall, and they have a dinner and different things like that. And that's open to everybody. You didn't have to go to the league for that, right? There's walk-on guys or scout team guys. Everybody can come back to that kind of stuff. And so it's really cool that they try to get guys involved, keep guys invested. And then, guys like myself and Chase Kaufman, we're just a 2-hour ride up the road. And so we go back to golf tournaments and speak to the team and different things like that, just because of the experience that we had there was just so great and had such an impact on our lives then that it's awesome to be able to repay that. And, I alluded to, I think we were joking around off camera, but never want to push, right? I'm not going to go anywhere that I'm not invited or not welcomed, but they've done a good job at making everybody feel welcome and inviting us and allowing us back in the building. And I think that's pretty cool. It says a lot about those guys.
Yeah, that's super
I also know you showed up with one of the trucks on a recruiting visit, if I remember correctly.
I do, and it's funny because I don't know if it's true, but the way the story goes is when they pulled up in the dump truck, Nick Saban was in the parking lot to go talk to this kid. This is what I heard. And they made him wait in his truck in the parking lot because the dump truck pulled up and Drink went in there and talked to him, and that was the kid that they signed. So, it had nothing to do with me, right? I'm just a little guy, but...
Hey, a piece to the puzzle.
Right.
Exactly. And another thing is, Atia Ellison is on the staff there. And he played during... he was a senior, I think, when I was a sophomore or maybe a freshman. But he does a really good job at making sure that guys are around the program and that they have things for guys to come back to. And so got to give a shout out to Atia.
So, Rock, that leads me to the other thing I wanted to ask you about is it seems like there's a lot of former players on this staff here. And I think that that's a really cool thing that they've done is they've brought back a lot of former players to kind of help out with a bunch of different things, from the on-field stuff, the analyst stuff, to, as you mentioned, like outreach and stuff like that. I think that's one of the things that I find really cool. Every time I see a press release of like, oh, this guy used to play here, and you a name that you recognize from his playing days, you see him on the sidelines now. I think that's something really cool that Drink has done with the staff that he's put together.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. And, one of the things that I do now is I work for the NFL as a uniform inspector. And so I do all the Chiefs home games. And I get to see Evan Bame's dad every other week or so. He works with the chain crew. And so he's been talking to me about how much fun Evan's having. And, he's been doing this for 2 or 3 years now. And last Sunday, or I think it just was last Thursday, he was telling me that Evans decided that this is absolutely what he wants to do for his next career. And so I think it's really cool that he was given that chance, right, to be able to figure it out once he got done playing ball. But not only that, but to be able to go back to where, his college career was, basically where his professional career started, and be able to get that experience, be around people, familiar faces, and just be in such a cool place, a place that means so much to him to get his career started. I think that's awesome. And so I'm really grateful for Drink for doing that for guys, and just hope to see that continue.
Yeah, that's super cool. And also, if you ever want to, sneak us into a sideline or anything like that, Chiefs tickets are insane, okay? Chiefs tickets are insane.
Look, you work with my boy Sean Barber. I know you. The conversations you and Shop must be having, because I know the conversations Shop and I have, crazy. And I know he showed me sometimes that list that you guys will go through and check, mark, and everything like that. Boy, that is a particular job. Like, that is, you got to have an eagle eye watching for these dudes' socks, these dudes' everything. So, a very cool job. I know that you and Shop have done that for a while together. I think a couple of years. He's been telling me about it.
It's been fun. It's funny to go from, I was always the guy who would go out and pregame with, my back pad hanging out and no socks on and all the stuff. And I would fix most of it before we came out for the game. But now being the guy who has to write all that stuff down, even if they fix it, I still have to write it down.
Right.
Come out looking right so I don't have to do more work.
I know that Barbara said he likes to do the Chiefs one, but he likes to do the Chiefs so they know that, like, yeah, you can't be doing that. I'm gonna catch you. I'm gonna find you. So it's we've had some fun conversations about that. That's a cool role that you guys, and you got the Chiefs jersey hanging up in the back there. You played a little bit in KC with the Chiefs. Yep. I think I'd be remiss if we didn't ask you how your time in the league was while you were here and everything like that. But you spent some time in the league. How was your time there?
It was fun. I was in the league for a total of 5 years. I played for 5 different teams, and so it was a fun way to kind of tour the eastern part of the country in your 20s. Making a decent living, still playing football, doing the things that you love to do, but really it's just about the guys that you interact with, the guys who are your teammates, and, you know, those days where you're playing dominoes and spades in the locker room and joking and all that kind of stuff. It's just so funny because you see us, or you see everybody, you know, playing football on TV and making all this money and different things like that. And that's one way, but that's one thing, that's one lens that you see them through. At the end of the day and at the core, there's a couple dudes that are, but like everybody else is, they're mainly like, we're all the same person. It's just fun to be able to interact and even learn from some of those guys, right? And develop those friendships and continue to do what you love. It is a business, right? And so you get introduced to that very quickly, and it sets you on your course for the rest of your life. And that's invaluable experience, because one, you're still getting to do what you love, but it changes a little bit. And so as you get older, you learn that life is about change, and you learn that successful people adapt to life change faster and better than other people. And so I could go on about football life lessons and blah, blah, blah. But for me, those things were great. And a lot of that started with Gary Pinkel and his program, and how they prepare you, not just for football games, but how they prepare you to be men. That is another similarity that I think that I would draw between Pinkel and Drink is they talk about football, but their focus is on graduating and developing young men. Because at the end of the day, all this football stuff stops. And there's a very select few of cats who won't need to fall back on that degree at some point. And so the most important thing is getting that piece of paper while you're there, making those connections and building that network while you're there, and doing the right things, because people will remember that. And inherently, I believe people want to help other people, especially if you'll give them a reason to. And so do what you're supposed to do, meet the right people, do the right things, and you'll be just fine.
And I think that's what's kind of crazy too about NIL is that, I mean, you think about guys that get drafted or guys, undrafted free agents, and the amount of money that they're getting. And now those people are getting that money at 18, 19 years old. Yeah. So I think that's honestly invaluable. What if a coaching staff and an organization and whatever can teach you the life lessons that come along with it, because getting a large sum of money for a lot of college athletes can be very damning. You know what I mean? Like it's their money.
Out really well in the beginning, right? But you don't have the right financial coaching, the right financial basis and standing for that, it'll be gone just as fast as it comes. I tell everybody, if I would have been making NIL money, I would own 4 duplexes on East Campus, and I would never work again.
You'd still be renting them out to sorority girls living over there.
Absolutely. I would own everything around downtown, and I would never work again.
Oh, hilarious. Well, Ruck, we appreciate you hanging out with us, spending some time. Before I let you go, thoughts on this season? What are your expectations for this team here as they head into a year with a ton of expectations?
I'm expecting a great season. I think Drake's going to have those guys prepared. I think they've got the talent, and maybe most importantly, I think they've got the schedule to have a very, very successful year, right? And so I think this is a very similar-ish schedule to what Kansas had maybe in 2007. Probably not as easy, but similar. And this team is way better than their team was. And so, I think Gabe DeArmond was talking about they've got 4 games that are really going to make or break this season. If you win 2 of them, you're in the playoff. As long as you're in the playoff, you got a shot and anything can happen, right? And so I really think we can win 3. We will win 3 of those 4 games, but it'll really come down to those. I don't see us dropping any games we shouldn't. I do see us winning a game or 2 that we shouldn't. And I think we're going to have a pretty good season. I'm going to believe in the hype. I'm not going to say we're going to get Mizzou. We are going to take advantage.
Well, we talk about that a lot on this show. Don't worry about it. Or at least I do.
Fair enough. We are going to live up to the potential, and it's going to be a special season, and I'm looking forward to it.
Love it.
My last question for you, because we did this last year in our last show before the first game. Who scores the first touchdown of the season for the Missouri Tigers?
Luther Burden. with the person.
Great. It's a great,
Yeah.
great guess. The odds are probably highest. Really.
They're going to showcase him. They're going to make sure he gets in there first.
Tucker, you go, and then I'll give you mine.
Luther was my knee-jerk reaction, truthfully, but I could see something where it's like a red zone scramble from Brady Cook, and he gets in the end zone because he's been showcasing the legs recently. Who knows?
Let
It could
him
be
cook,
something
baby.
like that. Yeah, let him cook. What do you think, Maggie?
I'm going to go with the deep pass to Marquise Johnson.
That's a good one.
I like that.
I like it. Attack their secondary early. I know their defense is like the best part of Murray State. I think they replaced every single like other person, but they do have some returners. But no one's faster than Marquise Johnson on their team. None of them. There's absolutely no way. Just let Marquise Johnson burn past him. I'm gonna say like a 40-yard tutty from Marquise Johnson.
That first 15 script, that first 15, I'm going to be very excited to watch that first 15 because they've been marinating on this first 15 for months, and so you
get 6 plays in and be in the end zone.
right. Well,
No,
that's
I
the
will
first
say-
script.
I would love for it to be like a 40-yard run because everybody's like, you're going to be nothing without Cody Schrader. So if it's like some offensive line, just get everybody out of the way and let Nate Noel just like run down the field, I'm going to be fine with it.
See, that's the only other thing is it could be a red zone run. It ain't going to be Brady Cook, but it could be the running back.
Look, I've got confidence. I've got confidence in Brady Cook. I'll keep it. I'll keep it for it. But Ruck, again, appreciate you hopping on with us and chatting some ball. Really appreciate just your insight on everything going on with this Missouri Tigers football team. We'll have to have you back soon. We'll have to have you back later on in the year to chat a little bit more once this team gets deeper into the run. But really appreciate chatting, catching up with you.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. I'm just a text away, man. Let me know and I'll come running.
All right, that's going to do it for this week's edition of Mizzou. That's who here on KC Sports. I appreciate you guys listening all the way to the end of the podcast. Make sure to leave a 5-star rating and review. I'll read it on the show if you do. So make sure you do it. Say nice things. Don't say bad things. Say good things. And make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube as well. So for Maggie Johnson, I'm Tucker Franklin. We will catch you guys next week after a Missouri Tigers win.
MIZ.